NBA scoring is out of control. Let's talk about it. With a surge of seemingly impossible performances by some of the brightest stars over the course of this NBA season, it's been made very clear that NBA basketball has become completely unbalanced. Let's conduct a little experiment here and see if you can guess which end of the court is dominating the other. Alright folks, if you guessed offense, then you've been paying attention this season. Joel Embiid, 70 points. 76ers franchise record. On the anniversary of Kobe Bryant's 81-point performance. Luka Doncic, 73 points in Atlanta. Ties the 4th highest scoring game in NBA history. Most points in an NBA game since Kobe Bryant's 81-point performance. Just to show the Hawks that the trade was a mistake. Karl-Anthony Towns, 62 points. Timberwolves franchise record. Devin Booker, 52 points and 62 points in the same week. Tyrese Maxey, 2 50-point games this season. Steph Curry, 60 points. Second player ever older than 35 to score 60 points. I really just can't keep up anymore. It's honestly hard to keep track at this point. Now, this is a very polarizing topic I found, but it has become such a relevant topic that the NBA's own competition committee has officially begun reviewing whether or not the game has become too advantageous for offense and whether some changes need to be implemented to achieve better balance. It's safe to say this is something that might be affecting the league in terms of whether or not fans enjoy this. I just want to take a moment to shed some light on something I found very interesting while going through the league's best scorers from season to season. If we go back to the 2011-2012 season and look at the league leaders in points per game, and again, this is not that long ago, only about a decade, there were just 12 players in the entire league that averaged over 20 points per game. The very next year, 9 players averaged over 20 points per game. 2013-2014 season, which is exactly 10 years ago, 19 players, so a little bit of an increase, but nothing crazy, right? Fast forward to this season, 2023-2024, there is a staggering 44 players averaging 20 points or higher per game. That is more than double what it was just 10 years ago. And if you go a little further back, it's almost quadruple. This is absolutely crazy. My point being, there are plenty of statistics to indicate that there has been a major shift in this league and the way teams and players are scoring every single night. Now that we've all looked at the numbers, now that we all agree, the question then becomes, is this good for the league? Is this good for the game of basketball, or is it a bad thing? And I'm not so sure. I do question the integrity of the league and the game with this highly unbalanced offensive NBA that we're watching and living in right now. It doesn't feel as meaningful to me when someone drops 40 or 50 like it did back in the day. That was kind of a big deal. There were only a few players able to do that consistently. In today's NBA, it just feels like a Wednesday. It doesn't feel as impressive when I see someone getting posterized in transition or breaking someone's ankles. It just feels like, yeah, that happened yesterday and it's going to happen tomorrow too. It's still fun to watch, but it's nothing out of the ordinary. These unthinkable offensive feats that you're seeing night in and night out, they feel normal. And they're not. If you've been watching basketball for over a decade like I have, you'd know just how unfathomable some of these performances are that we're seeing. Like I said, the question is this good or is this bad for the game? If it continues at this pace, this steady increase of offense with no intervention from the league or officials, will the league that we all love become something totally unrecognizable within the next 5 years or so? Only time will tell, but I will say, the fact that we're even having this discussion as much as we are just goes to show that this is something the league and the fans can't ignore anymore. And my opinion is it's only the beginning. This is a topic I'd really like to hear you guys on in particular. Like, the feedback would be super valuable for me to kind of gauge where the community is at. I know it would be kind of a smaller sample size, but from everything I've seen, I think a lot of people are kind of getting sick of this. I personally do feel like more balanced is better and defense needs to be a bigger part of the game. I don't know how I would do that as the NBA. I don't know if I would change the rules. I don't know what I would do to make that stronger, but that's why I want to hear from you guys. What do you think the NBA could do realistically over the offseason to implement some changes to not be so almost completely one-sided like we've been seeing when it comes to offense and defense? But what do you guys think of this? Is this a thing that we need to address and that's something that you have a problem with, or do you find it not to be an issue? Do you find it something that was bound to happen given the amount of skill the average NBA player and star has in today's league compared to 20 years ago? go? Or do you think it's gone too far and the league should step in? I will say personally, it almost feels like a 2K franchise simulation at times. That could just be viewed as me being old and very traditional, and I wouldn't even take offense to that if that's what you guys think. But don't get me wrong, there are positives and negatives to this type of league. One positive that I've been saying for a while now in regards to the modern NBA is that I personally think the league is in a much better place now, despite all of this stuff that I do think should be tweaked in some way than it's ever been. And not even like a little bit, I think by a lot. In regards to talent and, league-wide parity, I really believe right now, like I genuinely believe this, every single team in the NBA has something interesting about them and at least one player that you would want to watch. Believe me, that is something you were not able to say 15 years ago. In my opinion, only about 15 teams in the league were even interesting enough to want to watch. So about half the league was kind of just mid or not exciting at all. There was a very, very big drop off in the teams that were contending and the teams that you just you didn't care to pay attention to. So in that regard, it makes for a star-studded, action-packed show anytime there are multiple NBA games in one day. And like I said, even if the teams playing that night aren't even good, you can be sure something interesting is going to happen, which is just about as good as you can hope for within, a major sports league. I just wonder if we're becoming desensitized to these amazing athletes and talent and elite level basketball that we're seeing night in and night out. That's really the problem I have personally, is that when you see these types of things, it just doesn't feel as special as it would 10 years ago or so, or even sometimes special at all. It just feels like, oh yeah, top 10 player X just dropped 50. It's like, awesome, but there was one 3 days ago, so how can I really hold that game to as much weight as I would for someone else? It's almost like it has to be in the playoffs now for it to feel important or exciting, And in my opinion, that's a problem. Like I said, it makes for more entertainment night in and night out, but the big moments don't feel as special because they happen so frequently. It's hard to keep track, man. That's kind of just the point of me making this video, is not to really give a firm stance on it myself, because to be honest, I don't really have one. I think there are some tweaks to be made. I think there could definitely be more balance, and I prefer a more traditional balanced game of basketball like we were seeing in the 2000s. Just a tad bit slower pace, I want every shot and, basket to feel like it's important. I want it to feel like it matters in that game. But if things kept going the way they were, I wouldn't stop watching the NBA or anything. It's not like a line in the sand. It's just something that I would prefer personally. Like I said, this video is not for me to give a firm stance myself. I give you my opinion, but I want to provoke thought in you guys to come to a decision yourself, whether you disagree with me or, vastly, or whether you totally agree with me. I just want people to think about it, because it is really, really important in terms of where this league is going and how can we get the best, product of NBA basketball night in and night out. And obviously that's something we all want as NBA fans. And I just think community discourse is a really, really good way to do that, to kind of gauge where the average NBA fan is at, and where the average NBA fan is and what they want, in my opinion, determines a lot of things in this league, because it's a business. They're selling a product, you know what I mean? So one thing I will discuss, and this is something I am very firm on, I'm sure a lot of you guys would agree with this, is that the officiating in this league right now is some of the worst I've ever seen. A lot of these teams like the Lakers and the Celtics, and they're just getting special treatment, you know what I mean? That's kind of always been a thing a little bit to some degrees, that the superstars get extra calls and they get the benefit of the doubt and stuff like that, which I don't agree with personally. I think you should just make the rules and then enforce them when they happen or when they're violated. I think that's how every other sport works. These are the rules. If you break them any given play, I'm going to blow the whistle. Like that's just how rules work, right? You don't get away with it because you're better than the other players. You shouldn't. It just makes the league worse. It makes it less fun to watch. It makes it feel like the stars are going to win anyway. Like, these guys don't need extra help, man. They're already better than the whole league. I watched the Sixers game the other night. Sixers Celtics. I believe the Celtics had 35 free throws or so, and the Sixers had like 11 by the end of the game or something like that. Like, that's a insane difference. That's just not something that can possibly happen in the NBA, where one team is fouled 4 times the amount as the other team. That's just not how basketball works. It technically could happen, but it doesn't, you know? And some of these fouls were very, very minuscule and uncallable, but that discrepancy is game defining. Like, they already are better than us, and they're getting 4 times the amount of free throws. Like, it just doesn't, it feels like you're already up against it, and then the team that has the advantage going in is getting extra help. Like, that's not how it should work, man. These are the rules. Punish the player that breaks them, you know? Almost every time. You know, if you miss things, that's fine, but you know, refs are human. But man, the biggest problem I have with the officiating is these people are never held accountable. There's a lot of speculation on like betting and stuff like that with the referees, like they have money on the game. I don't know about that. I'm not sold on that idea, but I will say, you know, these officials can go completely unchecked for calling the worst game in NBA history, and I just think there has to be some kind of accountability with these referees, man. A player makes a mistake, they get fined, they get suspended, right? Referee makes a mistake, all right, nobody is gonna, you know, punish them for it. You know what would be a really fun idea is if the referees had to do a post-game press conference like the players and coaches do to explain their logic on their bad calls sometimes. I think that would be really fun, and it would be a good way of holding them accountable. But a lot of it just gets swept under the rug when there's no, you know, system or media intervention to, you know, investigate why some of the things they're doing. But anyways, I'm ranting at this point. Hopefully you guys let me know down in the comments section, because like I said, this video more than any, I feel pretty strongly about, and I really want your guys' feedback on this. It's a very serious issue, obviously. It's kind of like a big deal. So thank you guys so much for watching all the way to the end. If you did, again, let me know what you think of this. Do you think there needs to be rule changes? Do you think it's the officiating? Do you think it's just the skill of the players compared to back then? Do you think offense needs to be less incentivized in the rules? Do you think it's just a product of three-point shooting and, you know, pace inflation and stuff like that? Or is it a combination of, you know, a few of those things or all of those things? Let me know down in the comments. Love you guys so much. Thank you for all the support on the recent videos. It really means a lot. Drop a like on the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already. More stuff like this to come in the future. And hopefully you guys just have a fantastic rest of your day today. Hope your favorite team wins their next game. Unless they're tanking, I hope they lose their next game. And I hope they lose every game the rest of the season so they can get the first overall pick. Anyways, man, I'll catch you guys in the next video. This is your boy DeHave, and as always, peace.